favorite word and why.
Okay, this is fun. I think that there are two angles to this. Some people actually will get stumped and be like, I don't have a favorite word. Like, it wasn't about what your favorite word was. You're using a word as a vehicle to tell us something.
Oh.
So like, think about, is there something that you want admission people to know about you? Is there a word that can get you there?
Right.
And
I like that.
Yeah. So I mean, I kind of joke like my favorite word is in another language, but I could never write an essay about it. I just like the sound of the word.
Right.
So I wouldn't use that. I would pick something else that would let me share some things with the admission office.
I feel like my favorite word is right, ? Like, is that right? So, because it's like the one thing I say a lot. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I like it. It's like a vehicle. Like, how do I get to know you? Mm-hmm. We are a community of quirks. Yes, both in language. Yes, first year, second. One thing people say is like, what if I mess up and I say freshman? Like, is that going to kick me out the pool? And in tradition, I'm like, no, they'll indoctrinate you when you get there. In traditions, describe one of the quirks and why it's why it's a part of who you are.
Yeah, I love this essay because I think it really lets students be more playful and laid back in their writing. And we're also trying to inform also to say like, we are not sticklers about this lingo. We acknowledge that this is quirky and a little bit strange that we do this. I do think when I first got to UVA 15 years ago, people were probably a little bit more stringent and like less humored when people didn't use the lingo. But now you find students will just be like, campus, whatever, like
not grounds.
Like, it's what we say, but we understand that it's not
we're
for
different.
Everyone. But yeah, I mean, I actually appreciate the first, second, third thing. It has stopped me completely from saying the word freshman.
Right.
Always had like to me a negative connotation.
Yeah, I always felt like off, but never felt right.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I think that's the thing is like, and I see online, like, this is what they're looking for. What they're looking for is what you thought of, not what somebody else thought of and told you what they were looking for. So trying to get what they're looking for is not going to feel real, and trying to get, like, what did you actually think? So I always say, I am a paper person, take a notebook, sit down, and when you think of it, just start writing a couple ideas, and then just go into a document, like start putting some flesh to each idea and seeing which one feels the best for you, like gives you the most space to explore, as opposed to trying to go on the internet and find out what they want. Because trying to figure out what they want is the easiest way for me when I'm reading an essay to be like, I hate this essay. Like, honestly, like it feels like it came off the internet. And if somebody on the internet told you, then they told everybody on the internet. So do what you want. Like,
sometimes I think that I can imagine the best essays coming from a student at their lunch table being like, what's my quirk, you guys? And someone saying,
I love that.
There's one in particular that I can think of. This one student said that she has had this quirk of keeping the notes app in her phone, and she will log like happy moments in it. And then when someone is having a bad day, she combs through her notes app to find something that is related to that student and sends it to them. And I'm like,
I'm like crying.
But don't you learn about that person's personality?
It made me think about like one of my students who will like send me things I said to them. Like, she types it and she texts it to herself, and she texted it to me. And then sometimes I'm like, I said that? That was really good. Or, there's this one story of this girl whose dad undid their orange every day for them, and on the last day of school they got a note that was like, you're ready, and like crying faces. It's like that connection. I love that. It just gives me a little chills to think about somebody. I feel like that's what a good essay does. It's like, Oh my God, that's so, and I like the idea of asking your friends. I always tell people, throw your essay into a pile. If your friends cannot pick it out, it's a bad essay. I don't care if you paid $3,000. I don't care if every admissions officer told you it was the best essay. If I can't pick that it's you, it's not a good essay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. The flash seminar question. I'm going to quickly go through it. Self-governance encourages students to student investment and initiative, hallmark culture of UVA in her 4th year, blah, blah, blah. One student. If you created a flash seminar, what idea would you explore and why? Some students think I have to do something in my major.
No, in fact, the flash seminar is like, I know we do a big like send up for that one because we're trying to explain how they came together. Basically, right. This student was like, I've always wanted someone to tell me why such and such happens.
Right.
And it's something that's not like worthy of a whole semester's course, but we right. clearly at a university have people who could probably make some educated guesses about why this thing's happening or what factors are affecting this phenomenon. And that's how it was born. And people could just email in like, hey, I've always wondered, like, what are the, here we go, Jen, here's one for you. Is there legal precedent for getting rid of the King's Dominion rule and how would that play out?
Yeah. And why do I actually know that? I'm like, well, let me tell you.
Yeah. So
right.
like, you know, the average student is like, there's this thing everyone talks about, the King's Dominion rule in Virginia. And we like, but like, what does it mean? And why do we have it? And do we have to keep it? And clearly it's not in effect everywhere, but like, that would be something where it's like, it's not really worthy of a semester. And we have people who are legal people and people who are in education who could probably right. say, here's how it came together and here's why it happens. And then people from the business school who could talk about the economic impact, you know, it's like, is there something that's been like, you know, stuck like, in your craw? Like,
right.
Why do we do this?
Some students try to do it like what would serve the community. And like, now I'm starting to hear from you. It's like, no, what are you interested in? Like, not like, I feel all the students in the community would benefit from a mental health course. Well, yes, everybody mm-hmm. would benefit. But what do you want to learn, right? Like, not like, oh, and maybe it is something mental health related, but it could be something like, why is it that I get sad every time I see a leaf fall for the first time in the fall? Like that to me is a very interesting, like it tells me, I think what you're saying, and you've said this multiple times, it tells me about what you're curious about, what you mm-hmm. want to explore, not how you want to serve the community and make it better. Although if that's like who you are, then yeah.
Yeah.
The beta bridge question. It's like, yay, beta bridge. UVA students paint on beta bridge when they want to share information with the community. What would you paint on beta bridge and why? And why is this your message? And I always had a rule about beta bridge that was like, let the beta bridge at least stand for a day. You can't paint over a bridge. Like if somebody takes the time to paint over beta bridge, you better not be out there the next morning painting something else.
Yeah, and it's weird because like, so some messages stay up for a long time. The longest ever message was after the shooting at Virginia Tech. Mm-hmm. It was a Who's for Hokies message, and it stayed up for months until now there's debate about who actually did it. It was probably local Virginia Tech alumni went and painted over it and just wrote, "Thanks, Who's. See you November 24th," which was the day of the football game.
What a hokey response to that. It's like,
and it was like permission to start painting the bridge again, because no one wanted to be the one to paint like "Happy Birthday Joe" over "Who's for Hokies," like something serious.
Yeah.
But yeah, like whoever it was locally who painted over it, it was like, it's okay, we saw it. We
yeah, it's like it's like, and it also put I love that because it also puts you back into the, we are not broken, and like it's not like we were broken after the tragedy, but it's like, you know, because as somebody who was at UVA during the Virginia Tech thing, it's like, we have permission. Thank you for allowing us to grieve. Let's get back to beating you in football. Like, but the beta bridge message should be you. It mm-hmm. like it should be, and doesn't have to be, again, I need to stand out, so I need to say something profound. I've never seen something like really profound on beta bridge.
Yeah, sometimes it's like, a lot of times it's something about like a major issue, like a student organization will paint something about like climate change, or, you know, if it's like National Something Week,
Yeah.
a group may paint for that. Or a lot of times there are a lot of happy birthday messages
Right.
or celebratory messages.
That's when you know you're official. If you get a beta bridge, it's official.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge if someone takes the time. And yeah, the unspoken rule is that you wait until the wee hours of the morning to paint, to increase the chances that your message stays up for a whole day, because most people paint overnight. Right. There was, I can't remember what group it was, but one group once tweeted like, well, we painted at 2 a.m. We took our picture with our rendering, right, and then someone came at like 4 or 5.
I would see like that would be my villain origin story. They're like, and so why did you burn down the world? Because somebody painted at 4 a.m. Like,
I spent an hour painting this bridge.
And so it's like, even while we're talking, it should be like, have conversations with other people, and like maybe even pose it to your friend group, like, what would you paint? And blah, blah, blah. And then like, for me, the one thing that you end up writing about is the one that you're like, no, this is why. I would say that. Like the one that you're fighting over, it should be the essay.
Yeah, I think this is another one where your friends can probably say, oh, you always light up when we talk about.
Oh, I like that. What you light up about.
Yeah. And like, okay, what would my message be about that? Because again, this essay is a vehicle. It's not, like someone once said they would write their initials. Like, no, you wouldn't. Like, we're trying to understand like something that's important to you, that you want to shout about.
Somebody said to me once, I feel like I read this in a book, grits are a vehicle to eat something else. So it's like grits are a vehicle to eat butter and salt or sugar, right? So like if you like eating sugar, you're putting them in grits. If you like eating butter, you're putting them in grits. You're not actually eating the grits, you're eating the butter, right? But I think it's like, what is a thing that lights you up and like not lights your parents up? Or I feel like a lot of parents in this region say this is what UVA expects and this is what UVA wants. And it's like, but UVA is so about personality and you being you, that's what they want. They want it to be you. The last one, and I love this question. Rita Dove, I'm going to actually give her respect. Rita Dove, a UVA English professor and former U.S. poet laureate, once said in an interview, there are times in life when instead of complaining, you do something about your complaints. Shout out to everybody who's complaining about the news rankings. Let's do something else. Describe a time when instead of complaining, you took action for the greater good. The one thing I will say is there's this episode of Bob's Burgers where Louise feels like the mall Santa says that he's going to report that she was bad. And so she does this big production where she's like, I've done so many nice things that I couldn't even count them. I fed the hungry. I put shoes on orphans. I did this. And it's like, that's what people think goes into this essay. Like, it feels like a nice capades. If you haven't watched that episode of Nice Capades, it shouldn't be that. Like Tina's like, I put a crab in, and Jean is like, I gave away I ate the cold nuggets instead, right? So what are you looking for here? And I know you're going to say, I'm looking for what you did.
Yeah, I think that this is kind of insight into the student style here. I always say like complaining is good, but usually what I'm hoping, I should say, that this community teaches students is to complain and then identify opportunities. Because man, how pessimistic if all you do is say, this is terrible. This one thing, it really upsets me and I'm really bummed about it. Like eventually you have to then say, how am I going to do something to lessen the negative impact of this thing? Like I have to do something. Right. That's what I would hope, that we would attract a student who can identify things that aren't going well, but also can say, I'm going to take a step. I'm not going to solve this problem probably, and maybe some of our kids can solve the big problems. But I think being able to say, I'm taking action. I'm not just identifying problems. I'm also identifying solutions. Right. I think that's a person that you want in your community.
And it's not, it doesn't have to be the biggest problem. Like I think everybody thinks it has to be like, and therefore I marched and I marched for the next 3 days. Now, if you did march for the next 3 days, to me, if you march for 3 days on an issue, that should be the essay. Don't throw it at the end here. But like to me, it's like what gets you, and if you want to do it here, that's fine, because like maybe that was like the least thing that you did, right? But what got you out of the chair? That was like, I am tired. Like it could even be, I am tired of the way that we do course schedules. So I got up one day and I went to my principal and I just said, I am tired of the way that we are doing course schedules. I think it would be more effective like this. Like one of my students last year was like, I am tired of us always complaining to each other. So she just organized a town hall once a month with the principal. And she's like, and if you don't come, I'm going to shame you on social media.
Yeah.
She's like, because now she's like, you are accountable, which is what I love about this generation. It's like, you're accountable to us. So you need to be here as much as we need to be here, because we need to sort it out instead of just complaining to each other.
Yeah. I see this when I was in high school. My high school had a uniform and it was so hot in the summer times. And like, people complained for years about how hot these uniforms were in the summertime. Well, finally, like 3 of us just went to the principal and were like, is there something we can do about this? And all it took was asking, and they said, yeah, we can have a different thing for when it gets
Isn't it so frustrating to be like suffering and then they're like, oh, were y'all suffering?
Yeah. So I see it, like you see it now with kids who are addressing dress codes.
Yes.
Because these things have been around for a long time, but students are now saying, we've been grumbling about this, but I'm pretty sure I know how, I am seeing a blueprint for how we can get a change. And I'm going to I'm not just going to sit here and talk about it. I'm going to.
It does, but it doesn't have to be big. Like I think that's, if you don't like, because a lot of students are like, but I don't have anything. There is a time that you maybe in your friend group did something. Like it doesn't have to be a big thing. Like they're like here on this essay thing, they're like, well, what about the recycling? It doesn't have to be life-changing. You didn't have to save a polar bear yourself. I brought him to shore and made sure he was okay. It doesn't have, and also if you did that, I would want to hear a whole essay about that.
Yeah.
Like,
and you don't even have to have been successful. Right. You said, I organized, I love that. Wrote letters, I talked to people, and I'm still hoping that something will happen. And that's interesting. A lot of people, I think, assume that for an essay to be good, that it has to be wrapped up with a bow at the end. And my stance is, you're a teenager when you're writing these things, and the story may not be over.
I love that. I love that.
If you're telling a story that isn't over, that's okay. I hope that you will tell us that that momentum is positive and we're going in a good direction. Or
like things are negative and that's why I'm going to college to change it, right?
Yeah.
So any last pieces, I could talk to you forever. I have to come down to Charlottesville at one point, grab all the girls from last year. I mean, I will say I was very proud to have an overrepresentation of UVA. I don't think my hokey self was like, like, yeah. But, I was very proud to have an overrepresentation of UVA, because I will say publicly, I feel like your team did everything in their power to move every single mountain to ensure enrollment and just committed. I think that's the thing that people don't get about a school like UVA, but also schools that are really highly rejective, right? Is that when they admit you, or even as they're going through, they want you to come if you're a good fit. And so like seeing UVA move mountains to make sure that students were enrolled, and I think with your team, I probably did no less than 25 emails, and with other teams it was like whatever, but it was like, no, we're committed. What do we need to do? Like, let's move this, let's move that. That's not going to work. This is not. It's just like that level of commitment to keep students where they feel like there's a home, right? Yeah. Is there anything that you're thinking after we talk? One thing I would say is, if it feels repetitive, like someone, or like I've already written this 5 times, then it's not the right essay.
Mm-hmm.
Or look through your stuff and say, what else do I need to explore? Because I've explored this, I've explored that, I've explored this. Where else do I need to go? But any last pieces of advice?
I'd say, first of all, like most schools are not using interest. I think because some very prominent ones do, that students feel like they need to show love to the college.
Right.
And you do have to do research about this, but for the most part, we understand that being a senior means you have a lot on your plate. Right. So we don't require you to do extra things besides what is written in the instructions. The other thing I'd say is that admission officers exist to answer questions.
Yes.
You just have to reach out and ask them. And there are lots of avenues to do so. So students should use whatever channel they feel comfortable using, whether it's phone, email, social media, whatever. And if a parent or an advocate, counselor contacts us on a student's behalf, that's okay. I mean, I understand that students are busy during the times when we're open, right? Like 9 to 5, most students are like, you want me to carve out how much time for a phone call? So it's okay if a parent is the one or a counselor is the one making that contact. It doesn't look good if a certain person calls versus a different person. That's what I think sometimes it has to be me, or I'm gonna,
or I can't say anything dumb on that call. It's not like it's too many. Like, have you ever, can I just ask it like this? Have you ever had like what students would consider to be a stupid question and that student still got into UVA?
I don't even take their names when they call. But I do remember when I was in high school practicing to call to ask for an application. You had to get it by mail, so you had to call to get it. And I remember thinking somehow like they all had caller ID and they would be like very polite.
Nobody's thinking about you as much as you're thinking about you.
Yeah. I just thought I better say, be very thankful and please and thank you for the application, and
and meanwhile the person's like, oh yeah, I got you. It's in the mail, right? Like I just threw something like, oh yeah, what was your address? Got it. It's kind of like when everybody's reading in the class and you're preparing in your mind to read your part. Like you're like, and then they're like, okay, go. It's my turn. Go.
I mean, we work with teenagers. So that's the other thing I'll say is that most admission officers are way more laid back than people think we are. You have to be to work with young teenagers people and anxious parents.
Right.
Sometimes there are a lot of rumors that students will ask about, but the really interesting ones come from the parents. Like the cook up ones that are really out there. The students have ones that are like, I hear this every year. The same rumor every year.
Wait, I'm like, wait, what's the wildest rumor that you heard before we get off? What's the wildest rumor?
See, this is the thing. I always say I don't let the really weird stuff have headspace, because it would just bother me too much. Oh, here's a fun one. Someone was like, you need to time your application submission so that they'll read it around the holidays, because the admission officers will be more jolly around the holidays. I was like, well,
it's like we take off.
Yeah, and like you can't determine when we'll read your file, because it goes into like a whole process, right? So,
but also if you want it to be read by Thanksgiving, then you would have to time it you would have to know the timing. I heard like a student was like reducing hours, and I was like, why are you reducing the hours on the Common App? And they were like, because it can't be more than 40 hours a week. I was like, but you did 100 hours. And I was like, nobody is calculating this. Nobody is like, oh, I'm looking at your hours and it seems like this is impossible. Just put the hours.
Yeah, perhaps there's a school that has time for that, but I would say they were very small.
If a school has time for that, there's something that like emotionally we all need to talk about at an ACAC. Well, I loved having you. I feel like I ran you over longer than I was supposed to, but I really appreciate this. Again, you're my favorite. I feel like everybody's gonna be like, come on, but I thought I was your favorite. you know, everybody's my favorite, but you're my favorite, especially with the social media presence. Please feel free to reach out. Where do people reach you online?
Yeah, so I am UVA Dean J on every channel. Twitter, I'm mostly talking to adults.
Yeah.
In my view, like Twitter is mostly other professionals. Instagram is a mix of students and parents. TikTok is mostly students, but I do have parents, and I had a grandparent comment on my TikTok the other day. So
do you dance on TikTok?
I do not do dances. No, there will be no dances. I mostly am answering questions and just doing little tiny tips on TikTok.
Right.
And then Instagram, I do longer stuff. Like I do a live Q&A for usually about half an hour every Thursday on Instagram. I get a lot of DMs in Instagram as well. So I'm happy to answer questions that way.
Well, I love it. I'm going to stop this and then I'll say goodbye to you. But thank you all so much for joining us. And if you have questions, feel free to send them not to me. I mean, you can always send a question to me. If you're like, I'm just too nervous to ask it, I will ask it for you. But please feel free to reach out. And I might be like, okay, I'm going to coach you how to ask this question. So, all right. Bye, everybody. Wahoo wah.
Bye.